Hello and welcome to another episode of What to Watch Today, or Marcia and her friends chat about reinvent, because as you know, we don't show you much what to watch today, and more that there is only 2 days left of the conference, but we will have fun and we will be chatting about really interesting things, because yesterday was Werner Keynote and I'm pretty sure my guest has something to say about that. First, I have Anahit from Finland. So yeah, Nordics. She's an AWS community builder. So I'm super excited to have you here. And then I have Slobodan, an AWS serverless hero. And I'm super happy to have you. And I cannot pronounce your surname, so I will not even try. So can you introduce yourself? First, Anahit.
Hi, thanks, Marcia, and great to be here. Really great to chat about reinvent, because I start to feel a bit stupid to be the only person excited about the thing, So it's kind of nice to share it with other people as well.
You don't have the problem that you go to the kitchen, and at least for me, my husband is making coffee and they're like, there is manna profana. And my husband is like, okay.
Right. We have a pretty similar setup, and especially as my husband works with Microsoft Azure, so it's kind of a competitive vibe here. But yeah, it's always nice to have some like-minded people around. And yeah, as you said, I'm from Finland as well, from a town called Tampere, but I'm originally from Armenia. Have been living in Finland for 15 years, so I don't know, probably I'm Finnish by now in some way.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what or where, but I should say that you're based in Finland.
Yes, that's me. And I work in a company called Solita, which is one of the Finland's leading digital transformation companies. Yeah, that's me.
And what about you, Slobodan? I don't know where to put somewhere here.
Yeah, I'm here. So first, hello to Strahinja. I saw he just messaged. He just sent hello. He's from Serbia also. I'm from Serbia.
Oh, that's why you know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's even harder than pronouncing my name. But yeah. So I'm Slobodan Stojanović, and I work with serverless for a long time now, and I'm building a small startup on serverless. It's not that small anymore, but whatever. I also have some other company, and we're using serverless in that company from time to time. Fortunately, we have some clients that love serverless. And yeah, that's it. I'm really excited about all the announcements and things like these. Maybe not all of them, but yeah. And
a long list of announcements.
I really hope that next reinvent will be in person, so we can meet at one of the crazy places in Vegas. I don't like Vegas, but yeah, it's meeting people in person, it's much better.
Yeah, I think
that's the biggest value of this conference.
A recurrent thing of this series was the Dennis breakfast. Have you been there at 5 in the morning having breakfast with all the Europeans? At 4, yeah. So usually at Anahit there is a group of jet lag people from Europe, and usually go with your colleagues. So maybe you're not that alone, but we tend to go by ourselves. So then there is always a Slack message like, going to breakfast, and you know that if you go at 5 in the morning in Dennis, you will find someone, because we are all jet lagged for the whole week. So
that's the only place that works at 4 a.m. And so
that's true. The first day there's no breakfast, so you need to find it somewhere.
And even if there is always something. You need to start working. Basically, at least I have to start working before any breakfast is served, and I wake up at 4 in the morning.
Oh. I thought I am having a hard reinvent usually, and apparently not.
All Europeans.
But I mean, you have to confess, you do miss the experience, right?
I miss it. I didn't know how much I miss it until this reinvent, I have to say.
Same here. I was basically almost crying the day it started, with the keynote and all. I was like, no, I want to go there. I going through the pictures of the last years. I never thought I'm gonna miss Vegas ever in my entire life, but here I am missing Vegas. So.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But next year, I hope everything is good again, and we can go and smell nice tobacco inside a casino, see people be drunk at 6 in the morning playing those machines.
Wonderful. That's exactly what I missed about Vegas. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what was the saddest thing, or the saddest moment in Vegas, actually, in reinvent? is if you ever stayed longer than reinvent itself. So it ends on Friday. Usually by Friday afternoon, there's pretty much nobody left. But the latest on Saturday, like the entire reinvent crowd has left the building. So it's like 50,000 people or what for the past 3 years. And then like because the streets were filled, or the street actually was filled with those crowds, like going back and forth and back and forth. And then all of a sudden it all ends, all those crowds disappear, and then the normal reinvent or normal Vegas crowds appear, and they start to go back and forth. And it's like, that's the saddest thing ever. It's just like, don't ever stay till Saturday if you go to reinvent.
Unless you want to party and you want to change your hoodie from...
I somehow doubted that after a week of reinvent, you still want to party. Like, really, I would be very impressed.
There are some people, but
I don't know how they are doing that.
I'm too old for this.
My thoughts exactly.
So let's start chatting a little bit about Werner's keynote, because I think we are just right after it. You both watch it?
Sure.
Did you watch it live or in the morning today?
Yes.
I watched it live. Not whole keynote, but I most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. What do you think?
It was a long keynote.
It's always a long keynote.
It wasn't the long keynote. No, the Andy Jesse's was the long keynote.
That's the longest.
Yeah, that's the longest one.
But like compared to the real experience when you are there in the dark hole, sitting on the chair, probably hangover from the previous day, this was much easier in a sense. Like you can get up, you can get a drink. Exactly. I wasn't going to that going to say that on air, but thank you. Yes, you can do that as well.
Because that's always hard.
It was good. Werner's keynote is always my favorite one of
me too.
All the keynotes. So I was looking, and I think this year it was. Last year it was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think there was a single new announcement that he made last year.
But there was one, Builder's Library.
Yeah,
it turned out to be a great one though. But the Werner's was, I think, very nice and very chill, and I like the factory aspect of it. So it's kind of
no slides.
Yeah. It was like they went with what they had and made the best out of it in a way. So it's kind of, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
James is saying that he didn't feel it as long as Chassis. I totally agree. And I think for me, Chassis is a very stressful keynote because you're waiting for all the announcements. You know that there will be a lot of announcements. So basically, it's hard for me to follow the story because I'm always taking notes because this is my job. So it's like and following Twitter and seeing what people are doing and retweeting every time there is an announcement. So I don't have time to follow the story, but at least with Werner and the infrastructure keynote that there was not that heavy on announcements, I was able to follow the story and enjoy the whole thing.
Exactly the same feelings. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I watched Andy's keynote until I don't know. I heard all the serverless announcements, a few others, and then I just stopped. I was like, this is too long for me.
Yeah.
It's too long. Yeah.
There was one more thing about yesterday's keynote that I actually loved, which was totally different in my opinion to what usually, or to the previous ones, I would say, to other keynotes. I liked all three of the visiting, guests on the keynote. I knew 2 out of 3, which was so nice. It was such a great surprise to see Nicole there from Lego.
Yeah.
And then the Becky Weiss, which I absolutely love. I've seen her talk 2 years ago in reinvent, just like by accident. I didn't know who she is or whatever, and I just went to their session with another guy. Oh my God, I need to remember the names. David. Yes, and they had a great Chuck talk there, and I even wrote down the names so that like next year I will search for their sessions. This year at least I was watching Becky's sessions, and I actually highly recommend to everybody if you haven't, go check out her sessions. But like when I saw her yesterday, I was like, she's perfect for this stage. She's such a great speaker, and I just loved it. But then like the fact that they had 3 out of 3 were women.
But Werner always does that. If you know,
Werner does. Yeah,
he really puts a lot of effort on finding women and young women in stage, and I always appreciate that so much because it's always like either a very old CEO if it's a woman talking that like it's not very relatable, or then men. Sorry, Slobodan. I really like that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So, what are you announcing next year at Werner's keynote, Marcia?
I don't know. I will be super happy to go to Werner's keynote.
That would be very cool.
The top of my career if he ever invites me. So I'm open.
Just do your own keynote and don't invite him. So, problem solved.
Yeah.
But like this year, he went actually one step further, because the first keynote was not just a woman, but a woman speaking about women's fertility, which I was like, this never happened before. that was interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I really like also the customers. I was super happy to see Nicole there because I interviewed her like 1 month ago, and I kind of, I don't know if I knew by then, but I knew kind of close by that time that she will be appearing in Werner's keynote. I was like, yes.
Very cool.
It's like super proud. And Lego is one of my favorite products. So
I think you're not alone.
It's like you cannot get enough of those toys. And what else do you like from the keynote besides the guests that they had?
So who'll start first?
You can start.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I feel that Werner's keynote 2 years ago was mostly like announcements and new services and things like these. And then I think like I mentioned this a few times in the past 2-3 weeks, but it feels that AWS is like they have enough services for like early adopters. They now need to fill the space between. So there are a lot of people that are building existing products with in enterprises, and not just enterprises, but building products. And many of these people are afraid of like serverless and some managed services. They still have their own data centers. And I think the goal of this reinvent, and of course, as the goal of Werner's keynote, is to address some of these problems and try to fill that space between like early adopters, and most of us are on that side, and these existing businesses that are enterprises and that are trying to move their existing products that they have in their own, like, I don't know, data centers, basements, or whatever, to cloud and to connect to these modern services such as Lambda, such as Kinesis, and many other things. So I think Werner is addressing that with every year he's trying to address some of the pain points. Like last year, it was mostly about like databases, then scaling, how everything works when something fails and things like this. And this year he focused mostly on like how do you know that your system really works in a way that you want it to work, and how can you observe what's happening everywhere in your system, and of course many other things. There are a lot of mentions about machine learning everywhere at reInvent. I'm not the expert for machine learning, but that's really cool. It's nice to see that we'll have better tools for that. We already have a lot of good tools, but eventually we'll have like the same things that happening now with serverless. Machine learning will probably follow that path with different services and offering.
And I think as it happened with serverless, there is different levels. You have the maybe lambdas for the people that wants to implement their own serverless functions, but then you have the managed services that are serverless. And the machine learning is kind of the same. You have SageMaker if you want to implement your own models, but then you have a lot of managed services if you want
but you can go even further and get the bare metal that will allow you.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm saying that there is always different levels, and that's something I'm really enjoying from the machine learning, because there is a lot of things that I will never imagine myself doing, but then if I open recognition or I don't know, Lex, I can play with it.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool, and that's, for example, really helpful for me because as I said, I'm not spending that much time with machine learning, so all these services are really cool, and I can do some small experiments without knowing everything that I would need to know without these services.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's the idea, and I like the idea of putting machine learning in the databases. What do you think, Anahit, that you're a data lady?
Well, that's a bold statement, let's put it so. But yeah, that was an interesting announcement. Then I would probably say that this year's reinvent feels like there is a common message that Werner actually said yesterday as well, that they are trying to meet the customers wherever they are, and there will be something for everybody in a sense. So if you are a seasoned developer or seasoned data scientist, you can do everything from scratch. But then if you are not, then you have like ready-made services that can make that for you, which is kind of, and as Slobodan said, they are slowly trying to fill the gap with everything in between, like from scratch to a completely ready-made service in a way. And I think this machine learning for Redshift is one of these examples, when it's for people or for data scientists that are not familiar maybe with programming that much, but are more into SQL. They are familiar with running SQL queries. So here you have a service where you don't really need to code, you don't need to manage containers, dependencies, nothing. You just have your Redshift there, which is your safe choice in a way, and you have your SQL, and then you kind of write queries, and everything else happens behind the scenes, like magically, and you get the kind of. I can see the kind of the users for that and the value for that. Again, maybe personally that's not me. Well, I'm not a data scientist in the first place. I'm an engineer, but I can see how that can be very useful for people to even like start from that. So if you are not familiar with anything else than SQL, then you can start from that and then see what happens behind the scenes, maybe because it runs SageMaker behind the scenes. So you might go and get familiar with that maybe, and kind of a gateway drug in a sense to other machine learning services in AWS.
Yeah. And last year they announced similar thing for Aurora, and I don't know anything about machine learning, but one of the integrations they have, it was with Comprehend. So basically you run a SQL query and you call a Comprehend function, and you can apply it directly into the results of your SQL query. And that's something that didn't have any machine learning knowledge. I could do it with no problem, and then you don't need to transform the data, pass it through a Lambda function, or do anything. It was super cool. At least I was super excited, and I think people using Neptune or Redshift or Athena, I think there are an Aurora for databases that have this machine learning integration, might enjoy that connections, because it's just so powerful.
That's true, but the question is always if it's easier now to learn all these new services or machine learning itself. And there are so many things now. It's like I'm just kidding. It's like it's still easier with services, but there are so many of them. If I want to try something, I have no idea where to start anymore. It's like if you open that console on the website, it's like.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges from AWS, because one of the main things is that we don't build tools for you to adapt to the tools. We build a lot of things, so you choose. And I think even Werner said the diversity of services, that you might want to have two services that do the same thing, but they are implemented different to add resiliency and fault tolerance to your application. So there is a lot of things that you say, oh, should I use this or should I do that? And I get that question all the time. People are, please help me, what I should choose. And it's hard to choose when there is so many options. But then in the other hand, it's really nice that you have all those options, because you can really, if you know what you need, you can really find something that is perfect or closer to perfect. But for beginners,
like the problem with the problem with serverless for many people who haven't done it before or who are not familiar, it can be very scary, because I think in the beginning the learning curve is very, very steep, because like you end up in this sea full of services that are communicate or connect, or you can connect with each other, but then like where to go, what do I use SNS, SQS, Event Bridge, I don't know, like all these kind of things. There are so many options, and of course options is a good thing, but then I think we are still lacking some general guidance in a way from AWS. Like if you want to do this, these are the the services that can be helpful for that kind of maybe some kind of patterns. And even though there is this like theme of adding different maybe services that can do the same thing, I have noticed that in many sessions, there's also a theme of repeating the same architectural pattern that you use all over your system. So like, I think the message here is that don't try to reinvent the wheel every single time. And kind of if you have something some combination of services that works for a particular case in your system. Just try to think how you can use the same combination because it's familiar to you already. Try to use it in other places as well. So I think that's another message.
It's like don't try to reinvent the wheel. We'll do that for you. We'll reinvent the wheel everywhere you want. Reinvent. I'm just kidding, but yeah, there are so many services that are like. Sometimes I feel like that. I know it's really hard for teams to collaborate on that scale for sure, but sometimes it seems that some people don't know that some other people are building some other product. So because it would be much better if they work together, but it's probably it's hard for me in a small company to manage these things, and I'm pretty sure it's really, really hard at AWS.
And I think ownership and decentralization is one of the biggest kind of things for AWS, so we can go fast. And that has its benefits and it has its drawbacks. So the decentralization is great because everybody is very empowered. But yeah, talking with other teams is hard. But at the end of the day, there are some services that become more popular and others that don't.
For sure, yeah.
They throw everything they came up with. They throw it to the wall and see what sticks. I think that's been the theme.
Yeah, but the problem is that they still maintain all the other services.
I know. I'm amazed.
There is a lot of research putting what services go out, so it's not that they just throw everything to the wall and launch it. No.
I mean, like a lot of services are not going to be as used as the others, but they are still going to be maintained because they maintain everything, which is quite amazing.
But everything comes from user requests. So most of the things that you see are not just we sit in a chair and think, what would be nice for the customers? No, it's customers complaining about pain points. So somebody needed that thing.
So I definitely need to complain more.
Yeah. AWS runs on customer feedback, aka customer complaints. So go and tell your account managers and your persons that you
I'm
have.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's like
what you would like to see next.
For me, I don't really miss any additional products. I just need like small improvements for many different products now, and that's it. Because I'm already familiar with my stack. And there are already amazing improvements in some products. For example, we are using EventBridge a lot, and they did an amazing job with all the new features that they added before this reinvent. So yeah, that's amazing for me. And there are so many other things that improved over time. For example, API Gateway and these new HTTP APIs.
Yeah,
it can be even better, but it's much better than the REST API. Because, for example, even if you want to set a cookie or do something really simple from Lambda, it's much easier now because the API and everything else for working with that product is so much easier. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that launched last year in reinvent, and I think it was quite a big saving for a lot of people because HTTP API is so much.
It didn't launch last year. Actually, it did launch only this spring.
No. They announced it last year.
Oh yeah.
True. They announced it, but it only became available.
Yes.
It's been around there. It's one of those announcements.
There are some really small things that seems like really small, but they are probably really hard to do in the background. For example, that thing for S3, where we have like
that's so impressive.
Yeah. It's
so
a strong consistency for read after write. And a distributed database, that I don't know how they did that.
Me neither.
And S3 is global, so it's like, of course, you have data in some place, but it's still like, it's crazy. It's something that, I don't know. It's a black magic.
I don't know how they did it.
Replication and it would be very interesting to know how they did it.
I hope they do a session on how they do that type of things, because that's or they put it in the build library or something.
We'll watch that. We'll probably watch that at some of the future keynotes, because it's like last year we saw how AWS do that with databases with like different availability zones and what will happen if one zone fails and things like these. So I'm pretty sure some of these things will be part of some of the future keynotes.
But S3 is a service, at least pre-reinvent, they got quite a lot of announcements. And during reinvent, they got a couple of announcements that were quite big. So it's one of those old services that it never finished. It's always improving and improving.
So
Except Cognito.
use cases.
Cognito, no.
It's finished.
It's perfect as it is.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I know a lot of people that that don't agree with that, but yeah, it works. It's like it works. There are a lot of potential improvements for Cognito.
I think this year they added the Apple that you can register with Apple. So I think that's one of the announcements for during the year.
That's really important. It
was very important for everybody that was using Cognito, because Apple will not promote your application if you don't have.
No, for sure. You can do that with, like, for example, we have a login with Slack and Microsoft Teams in our application, and we're not able to use like out of the box Cognito. We're not able to use out of the box Cognito connection, so we built like a custom authentication flow. So basically, you can do the same with Apple because it's the same. It's some kind of OpenID Connect, I guess. So we need a better way to manipulate HTTP response headers between S3 and CloudFront. Yeah, I agree with that. So let me try to explain this, because I had the same problem like a few months ago. So you have S3 as a place where you host your website. You have CloudFront as CDN. And then you want, for example, to add security headers to your requests for front-end website. To do that, you need to have Lambda at Edge that will attach these headers. The only better workaround that I found is using Amplify, because they do all these things in the background. So Amplify Console is really cool tool for that, because you just fill these headers in YAML and they'll do that magically somewhere in the background.
Yeah, Amplify Console, I think, for hosting applications is the easiest way nowadays to
it's really
even
cool. It's great.
Into lines of code. And there was quite nice announcements for Amplify that didn't make it to any keynote. And I was like, no.
Admin UI is definitely one of the big things. So really like what the Amplify team is working on and delivering, and also AppSync team and a few other teams for sure. But Admin UI allows you to, instead of building admin UI for your application, you have, of course, everything for your customers, but often you need some kind of management for your team. They're trying to offer something that will be generated automatically for us, which is amazing, but it needs like more work for sure. But
it needs more work, but it's great in the sense that, for example, I see it a lot in teams that they have a lot of front-end developers or client developers, and they don't need to have access to AWS. But still, without an AWS console, they can download the whole application and still work on the application. They can manage the backend from this admin UI without being logged in, and they have levels of abstraction, like you can model your data, and that will then at the end up in a DynamoDB table and in AppSync, but you don't see that complicated view from understanding Dynamo or understanding AppSync. So you will see little boxes that you can make relations. So I think, and you can add functions, you can storage. So a lot of things you can add from this admin UI. So all your client developers can basically create the application without having access to the real AWS account. So you don't need to train them on how to use AWS. You don't need to basically grant them access or anything. So I think that's pretty cool. And also that content management that you were saying, that's super helpful.
Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do. And this is one of the announcements that is not for enterprises, that is mostly for like smaller companies, which is also something that I really like.
Yeah, I wrote the blog post for them. So for me, when they come to me and told me this some months ago, I was like, this is so good. Because I'm always happy about announcements that open the door for a lot of people that don't know AWS, because the barrier to entry sometimes is too hard. And I think the Amplify always helps people to come into the space without really knowing much. And they can build scalable, great applications without really getting into the inner depths of how to connect services together. So I love that. So, Anahit, tell me, what is your favorite announcement? Like during the
so
whole
far.
year?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Well,
whole year, no, the whole event. Let's put it
whole
like
year. Really a boring person in the sense that I don't like, this big new shiny announcement thing. So I'm not following reinvent for the new services, as I know many do. Mainly because those services are usually very raw, so they come out in a very much kind of MVP stage, and which is great. I mean, AWS wants to get customer feedback and improve and whatnot, but I'm thinking from the perspective of production use or being production ready, and quite often it's still like a year or two between the service was until it gets production ready. So I'm much more, again, like Slobodan said as well, into like small incremental improvements in the existing services. So like things like, for example, what was it? Redshift performance automating. So performance tuning automating, like small things that will help really in kind of day-to-day life for people who deal with those services. So I like those a lot. But I think I was just thinking what Slobodan was telling about the HTTP APIs, that it's been a tendency lately to have a version 2 of the existing service. So it was the HTTP API and then Aurora Serverless, at least version 2 that comes to mind immediately, which was maybe one of the favorite of mine this year. It's not a new service per se, but
but it's improved.
Yeah, it's an improvement, but it's even more than an incremental improvement. It's kind of a bigger step with all the the scaling issues apparently solved, and it now promises to scale really quickly, and the granularity of scaling is much smaller than while before it was just like you have to increase the capacity twice or decrease.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pretty limiting, and the step can be or the threshold is very kind of a small between like 2 CPUs, whatever units and 4 or 4 and 8. There can be like a tiny difference in incoming traffic, and all of a sudden you have double your capacity, which seemed quite
double your cost.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, but let's see how that one turns out. But that sounds very, very promising, at least. Then, well, we spoke already about the S3 consistency, which is just fascinating. I really want to know how it works. From the data side, there is this glue elastic views that was announced recently, a few days ago,
last week.
Yeah, which at least in theory, well, again, I'm contradicting myself because it's a new service. But in theory, it sounds pretty interesting because I think, again, this year there's been a lot of talks about purpose-built databases. So you have different types of databases for different use cases, and AWS has all sorts of databases.
16, I think.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure there are 16 different types of databases.
I'm impressed now. Well, a lot anyway. Like SQL, NoSQL, and with Redshift and Auroras and Elasticsearch, and if you count S3 as a database and that.
No, you don't need to count.
I'm pretty sure you can use like 16 other services as a database.
As a database, exactly. But there's pretty much
3.
Exactly.
Oh, even Lambda, it's like you can incrementally add things to. Now you have 10 gigabytes, so
there are 16 managed databases.
Yeah,
but add all the other ones that you want to put in the site.
That's a lot, and it can be very confusing. But most importantly, it means that if you have different databases for different use cases, you will probably end up moving the same data from one place to another. And that's kind of a lot of manual work and piping, which you would rather avoid. I'm telling that as a person who has done that. So what they promise with Elastic Views is that it will be done automatically, or there is this serverless fully managed service that will take care of this data, or it will create materialized views based on one database in the other. So at the moment they do it from DynamoDB, so you can have data in DynamoDB, and then you can have materialized views of that data in, I think, Elasticsearch,
Redshift,
S3 and Redshift.
And S3, yeah.
But they have Aurora, RDS, and maybe some others as well. So let's see how it pays out. But at least it sounds very exciting. It's kind of
but now that you mentioned that, it's like it seems that the problem, the new problem that we'll have at some point is that moving data everywhere. So even now with Lambdas and with serverless systems, your data is not in one place, and then you don't have one monolith that is reading the data from, let's say.
No, but I think the most important thing here is that you have one single source of truth, in a way that your data, so your main data, let's say, so is in one place, but it's been a pretty common design pattern in a way to have this data mart, so to say, for example, you have the Redshift, you have all your data there, but then you want to have some small view on that data, and you create RDS
for
data
sure.
that has some subset.
Yeah, for sure, but I guess it's not. It's not enough to look at the cost of your system as cost of Lambda and cost of database and cost of something else. We need to calculate the data transfer fee for all these different services. Some of them have additional data transfer fees, some don't. So that might become like an important part of our AWS build.
Inside AWS, it's rarely that there is.
Yeah, but if you have multiple regions and things like these,
yeah.
Then it becomes complicated. Yeah, but I am now speaking mostly about
sure.
I personally work with, which is usually like one region, one account.
Yes.
Then you want to have a kind of a different representation of the same data and different ways to query the same data. So it's very useful. Oh, it's 11 named database services.
Plus all the flavors of Aurora. So there you have your 16. So maybe now a little bit more because there is Aurora. But yeah, there is many.
Yeah, but anyway, that was one that at least caught my attention, and I hope it will be as good as they say it is. So let's see how this works. And then from yesterday's keynote, this Chaos Monkey as a service. I never remember what's the name of it, but
I don't remember because I've been talking about it with the internal name. So something. Injection false service or something like that. I think it's
fault injection simulator.
Right, almost remembered. But at least it sounds fun to try. That's something that I would be willing to play around with, even in the very beginning of its existence. So let's see that.
We need to get Adrian Hornsby to talk about it. He's been involved in that product from the early on. So
yeah, Adrian and Gunnar were the people who came to mind immediately when I heard that announcement, that they must be very happy about that.
Yeah. But Adrian was working with the product team to build the right service. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited to try that one. And I think Chaos Engineer is one of those things that it takes a lot of time and setup to do. So if you can get it managed from somewhere, maybe people do it more often. I don't know. What you think, Slobodan?
So when you mentioned Adrian, I think the other Adrian that worked at Netflix at the time that they invented chaos engineering is in AWS. So it was it was basically a matter of time when will we see a product like this. When you're mentioning the keynote from Werner, there's an excellent blog post on a Cloud Guru by Mark. I will not even try to say his surname.
I will put the blog in the screen because I was reading at it before chatting with you.
Yeah, it's an excellent blog post. It is not that long, but it lists all the important parts from that keynote. So yeah, I definitely recommend that one because you'll see what you've missed or what you can see in the.
The blogs from Mark are always nice because he does a lot of summaries and recaps, and they're quite detailed. Even when he's tweeting, he's really spending a lot of time on that. So do you have something on your wish list that still reinvent didn't make you happy?
Yeah, I'll let you say first because I'm pretty sure you have something more important than I do.
No, I don't think they are anyhow different in importance. It's just like wishes that we have. There's of course a long, like small detailed wish list of things that would be nice there. But like one thing that was the most disappointing in this reinvent is that I was expecting, or I was waiting and hoping and looking forward to the Kinesis Streams autoscaling. And Kinesis Streams is kind of my favorite service. I talk about it, I blog about it. Actually, there's another blog post coming out next Monday if I manage to wrap my head around the reinvent craziness till the end of the week. But I was just hoping so much that the autoscaling comes, because at the moment you can do Kinesis scaling, but you have to use application auto scaling for that, and you need to have Lambda for that, and you need like a lot of moving parts. It's not difficult, but it's something that I wanted to avoid altogether.
Yeah. Don't worry. In my wish list, it's been now for like 3 or 4 years. Elasticsearch serverless. So
I think it's on everybody's wish list to have work with Elasticsearch. That's one of the biggest ones. Like each year, everybody's like, now it's coming. Is it the Elasticsearch serverless? No, not this time. So yeah, but yeah, this is like my wish is quite, as I said, small incremental change. But actually, I think it requires quite a lot of work, and I know it's on the roadmap because it's a very important feature that many customers are asking. I mean, the Kinesis auto-scaling one, but yeah, that was...
There's actually one feature that was not really announced, or at least I didn't saw it, but it's important, and maybe it's using that future Elasticsearch serverless. It's on AWS console. There's a search that allows you to search almost everything now.
Oh, but so that might be using Elasticsearch traditional, because Elasticsearch works very well. But
for sure. But maybe they're testing the serverless version through that. And
that's a wishful thinking, Slobodan.
I was talking with Rick Houlihan, the Dynamo master of the word, and I told him that I would love to have Elasticsearch serverless, and he told me how to do search on Dynamo like Elasticsearch. So since then, I don't need more Elasticsearch. Thank you, Rick Houlihan.
Tell me, please.
You need to reach
basically the sort key. You can do things like contains or begins with, and then you can do basically the same. So
yeah, that's true. You can. Okay.
I was like, I want to have Elasticsearch, and he was like, but are you just searching on one string? I was like, most of the cases, yes, like a name or something like that.
Put everything that you have in that. So just put everything you have in the sort key, and that's it.
Exactly. Then it works. So salt. Yeah, but talking with Rick Houlihan is always very fun. So if you have the opportunity ever, have a conversation with him.
Disappointed that we couldn't, because Marcia, we're supposed to be speaking at the Serverless Days Helsinki this summer. Was it summer? Yeah.
I don't know. First it was in March, then it was in August, then it never happened.
Rick Houlihan was supposed to be there. Jeremy Daly was supposed to be there. I was so psyched about meeting both of them.
The plan for Jeremy was to come to Belgrade afterwards. So yeah,
that was very, very sad. Yeah,
let's hope next year it can happen. I will go and back them again to apply. But Rick really wanted to come to Finland, and I think Jeremy as well, because he's been working with Nokia people and he's been in Finland. Yeah, so he was quite happy.
That would have been so great. I mean, that's one of the major disappointments of this year.
Well, let's hope next year.
Is there a DynamoDB inside each Nokia phone now, or something like that? No?
Hardly. Nokia doesn't make phones anymore, so.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what they are doing, but something.
Networking, I guess, mostly.
I don't know.
I'm not sure that Nokia exists anymore, but I learned something new. Yeah.
Yes. So I know Anahit has done her homework. What is the top session people should watch?
One session. Now you're killing me.
No, you can do more, but to start with something.
Well, I actually started to make lists for myself, just for my own use, and I have tweeted at least 2 threads in Twitter, so you can go check those out if they might be useful, like from week 1 and week 2, my personal favorite sessions. And I'm hoping to make one from this week as well, though I'm starting my vacation on Monday, and I will have to one day, so let's see how things go. But what I mostly do, and I did that also in physical actual reinvents, is that I search for speakers, not the particular topics in a way. So I know that there are some people who are very good speakers, so I search for their sessions. So people like in the serverless world, people like Eric Johnson or Chris Munns are always
my favorite. Eric.
That's a safe bet. You will get excellent talks from both of them. Then, as I said, Becky Weiss is my personal hero. Her talks, and David Janacek as well, they both are excellent. And then I discovered a new favorite this year. It was Bridget Johnson about the security and identity issues, which I never thought would be fascinating, but she made them sound fascinating. So I would recommend her as well. And then there's Mark Brooker from, I think he speaks about architecture a lot. So
and he's talking something about serverless, I think, either tomorrow, and it will get into some really interesting inside parts. So
that's one of the things that was on my list as well. So of course, there's many more, and of course, Rick Houlihan, Alex Debris. So their sessions on DynamoDB, this year they have like 4 sessions or two-part sessions. So I highly recommend all of them. I actually watched Rick's first session today. Before
it was yesterday.
The repeat was today. I watched it today, and my head was just exploding after it. Too much information.
They made an extension in Chrome that you can change the speed, and there was Rick Houlihan's speed.
Did you try it?
No, but I saw
it today. It's retarded slow. It's like you can't even make what he speaks out, but maybe that's an appropriate one to listen. Yeah, Rick is excellent always, but like from the sessions, okay, I'm biased towards Kinesis, I said already. So there was one excellent session from Adam Wagner. It's about, I think it's called something like AWS Lambda streaming events or sources. It's actually about Kinesis and DynamoDB streams, both. And I was lucky to go to Adam's Chuck Talk last year in person. So I knew he's a great speaker and a great topic. So that one I can highly recommend if you're interested. Then what from the upcoming or from the past ones, there was a great one about application integration patterns with microservices. That was very good. Then actually the very nice surprise this year were the builders library track, which are all
the builders library. I think it's a great track because they have a lot of stories from how AWS and Amazon build things. So,
and then the surprise was that they are all 200 level sessions, and those I usually don't even check out. I usually go for 300 or preferably 400 sessions, especially with the serverless sessions. The 400 are the most interesting ones. But those are the 200 sessions, and they are just excellent. So I can really highly recommend those. Like basically all of them. just go listen to them.
And they're very inspiring because the problems that they're trying to solve are quite crazy.
They are. I've learned at least one new thing I learned from those sessions is that at AWS, to use SQL database in your internal services, like while building something in AWS, you have to have a special permission. They need to, because you have to go with the NoSQL database by default, and then if you have a very good excuse, you can ask for special permission from maybe like vice president level or something like that.
Yeah, you need to ask Rick, and if he allows you, then you can use it.
Well, maybe that as well, but no, it was even higher than Rick. But it was a fun fact that.
Yeah, but Rick would never tell you to use.
Exactly. Exactly, but that was fun as well. And again, there is one session that I'm personally actually last week looked like, I don't know, calm before the storm. Somehow, like there was a lot of sessions first week. Then I have a completely stuffed calendar for this week, and then last week there was kind of a flat line in sessions for some reason. Maybe
rest.
Maybe that, but I think tomorrow there's going to be another session I'm looking forward to.
I think the 400 and 300 session in serverless are coming this week.
Yes,
at least for me, it happens the same, that this week is like, there's all the cool sessions I want to watch.
There's like 4 or 5 400 level or something like that, 400 level serverless sessions or Lambda sessions, which never happens. So I'm very excited.
There is today, one of the ones I think it will be really interesting from Chris Moon's optimize your serverless applications. And that's part 1. Part 2 is tomorrow, and that's Alex Casalboni again. And I'm pretty sure Alex will be talking about performance tuning and things like that, because he's been talking about that a lot, and he has a lot of tooling for that is really great. So I'm very curious about what Chris Moon has to say. He always adds very interesting twists, so I will definitely recommend. And talking about observability, today there is the observability talk on serverless. That's from Julian Good, and he will be basically walking you through how to do observability in your serverless application. So maybe if you're already doing it, this is maybe too basic, but this is a 300 level session. So you still need to understand how Lambda works and what is serverless, but he will walk you through CloudWatch in many different ways for your serverless application and X-ray and all that. So
there's also a separate session, like you said, from Mark Brooker about the security, Lambda security. So it's also function isolation, I think.
Yeah.
So that Lambda security. It's also for level talk. So I'm expecting a lot from that one as well. But you basically just listed all of the sessions that I have in my wish list as well. So we are going to be watching the same sessions.
Yeah, I think I will be watching them later because I'm not really watching a lot of sessions from reinvent now. I'm just so busy with all this live streaming. But next month, that will be my my activity.
I actually try to watch them live in a way, in a repeat in our time zone, because it will be so much harder later. So I actually take 2 days off, like tomorrow and Friday, just to concentrate on all the content that's very important. Yeah,
lucky you.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky in the sense that like my company allows me to take these like study days every now and then, and I'm kind of using mine for this year. So yeah, that's a pretty nice thing. So I will kind of do that and then leave for a vacation.
Yeah, so we are doing the leave tracking system. So for us, the end of the year is really important. So it's really hard for me to have like enough time to watch all the sessions that I want. So I'll probably watch most of them in January or something like that.
Yeah. You're like a nightclub. When everybody is partying, you're working.
Yeah.
And today, it's also the leadership session for serverless. And I think that if you don't know what a leadership session is, it's a small keynote just focused on serverless. So that will be an interesting one. I don't know if there will be any announcements, but at least they go through the state of the kind of technology and how it's going and what is the future that AWS see on this. And it's quite, at least in the IoT session yesterday, they announced all the IoT things. So who knows? But don't expect launches. I think it's more about like learning what is the view, and this is the VP of serverless, so he will be
nice expectation management from you, Marcia. Like, don't expect much from it. It's not gonna be as great.
Yeah, well, it's better
you will not
to
get per nanosecond billing or something like that.
It's better not to be surprised, no? If there's a lot of announcements, then you're like, yeah.
Totally agree.
But I generally say don't expect, because people expect announcements all the time in reinvent. That's why you come for reinvent, to see announcement. No, you come to reinvent to learn new things about things that are there for the last year and you have not had time to try them. So
like, it's nice that different people find what they look for, like, because reinvent is so huge, like 50,000 people last time, so everybody has something of his or her own. Somebody looks for new services, somebody wants to study more on the existing ones, somebody wants networking, somebody wants all of it together. So there's something for everybody.
Have you tried any of the random things that were happening in the virtual reinvent, like the game, the cable guy? So there is this game called the Cable Guy.
Yes.
And you can get a hoodie out of it. So that's the way to get your reinvent hoodie. So if you're watching this and you don't know, go and finish the game. At the end of the game, you will get chance to win a hoodie. Well, you don't win it. You will just
if they still any, but I'm sure they do.
Yeah, so I think so little people notice that there is quite a lot of hoodies in stock. So
they will just have to send it to everybody after the rain.
Because that's the thing with reinvent this year. There is so much information. Nobody clicks everywhere. So
there was this one what was it, wine tasting thing from one of the sponsors. I was almost submitting to it, but then the time zones were completely impossible. Like
in the morning.
And I was like, I'm not gonna drink at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, but how do you do that? You bring your own wine, or?
That's the nice part. They send you the package. You had to submit or apply for it beforehand, and then they would send you, like, I know, samples or something, like package with wines. which would be nice.
If I did that, I'm pretty sure someone from the customs would come to my house too.
Yeah, that's
because it's like, yeah, there are enough crazy things in the customs waiting for.
Like your virtual reality Googles.
Yeah, just try to explain them what's that. I'm like, that's a toy, and they're like, a real toy, and I'm like, yeah,
grown-up toys, and then
whatever.
I'll tell you a story which is completely irrelevant to reinvent, but totally relevant to customs and how fun they are. So I ordered this body wash from the US, from the shop I was ordering for a long time. And the body wash is called some hemp something and something. So hemp was on the label. So it just has the hemp seed oil in it, basically. They rejected it at the US customs twice. They sent it back because it contains prohibited items. So it's like I spent the last 2 weeks sending the emails back and forth that it doesn't have prohibited items. It's just called some sort of hemp and something. Just look what it is. It's a body wash. I can't smoke it.
Yeah, I was just like, open it and see what's inside. I have no idea how to explain anymore.
I don't know.
Customs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So still 2 more days of reinvent. So then we can go on holidays, and then in January come back for more.
That was a surprise with the 4th week of reinvent. You would think like 3 is over the top, and then there's like, okay, we have 1 more.
Yes. But there will not be any announcements, so you can chill.
We'll not watch it. Bye. That's it.
Yeah, but there are more sessions that didn't fit in the 3 weeks, and there is also some community sessions, so there will be more to watch. But
that's nice.
Yeah,
maybe we'll have more time to watch them. At least I will have more time to watch them.
I will use my January to watch a lot of the sessions I have in my watch list, because this is tough when you're like doing a million things at the same time. But January is more relaxed.
We won't hear from you for the entire January. You're going to be just focused on the reinvent sessions.
Yeah, I don't think I will produce much content in January. I need to unplug from these bright lights in my face. But yeah, so thank you very much, Anahit and Slobodan, for being here today. It was really nice to chat with you. So as I said, this is Chatting with Friends and Marcia, because we have fun. At least I did have fun. So
Me too.
I hope you too. And I hope the people watching also enjoy this conversation. And I will put your Twitter in the screen. So if people want to find you or connect with you, they can do it. So yeah, 2 more days.
Thank you very much for having us.
And yes, it was lovely to chat with you, and I see you around.
Yeah, 2 more days.
2 more days. And then holidays. Except for Slobodan, that he's not holidaying.
But we will have our holidays on his behalf. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.